Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, allow me to ask you a question today, a question that reaches deeper than science, stronger than philosophy, and more necessary than breath itself. What is a human? Because how you define a thing determines how you treat it. You see, we live in a world where we are teaching people how to succeed, but we have not taught them who they are. We're giving people money but not meaning. We are building up industries but breaking down identity. You can buy education, degrees and fame, but if you don't know who you are, none of it matters. So let's go back to the beginning, not to religion, not to opinion, but to design. A human is not a body trying to be spiritual. A human is a spirit living temporarily in a body. That changes everything. If you think you're just flesh, you'll live by feelings. If you know you are spirit, you'll live by principles. The body is just a house. The human is the tenant, and when the house breaks down, the human returns to the source. This spirit was placed into a vessel of clay, but with a purpose. The Creator never made humans to blend in with nature. He made humans to manage it. You were not born to survive. You were created to have dominion. That means you are not supposed to be ruled by circumstances, culture, or even systems. You were made to rule within, not over people, but over the gifts and assignments given to you. So the human was not just created to exist, but to represent. In the language of authority, humans were made to be ambassadors. That means we carry the agenda of heaven into the realm of earth. That's not religion, that's kingdom. The human is not a random mistake. It is an intentional manifestation of divine thought, clothed in skin and time. What makes the human sacred is not just the breath in their lungs, but the image they carry. You are made in the image of God, not in the image of your trauma, not in the image of your country, not in the image of your sin. You were crafted with royalty in your roots, with leadership in your bones, and eternity in your heart. But here is the tragedy. When we forget who we are, we live beneath what we were created to be. When identity is lost, behavior becomes destructive. When purpose is forgotten, potential becomes wasted. That's why we kill what we should nurture. That's why we worship things and ignore people. That's why we chase pleasure and forsake purpose. Because the human disconnected from their source becomes like a light bulb without power. It still has the shape of light, but no illumination. How is human? Human is broken, not because it was made wrong, but because it left the blueprint. You can't know what something is until you ask the one who made it. And the human problem today is not politics, race, economics, or religion. The human crisis is identity. Until we reconnect with our source, we will continue to malfunction. We will try to fill eternal hunger with temporary things. We'll build towers of Babel with no foundation of being. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. It is life without purpose. That's why we need restoration, not just salvation. We need to rediscover not only who made us, but why he made us, because the answer to how is human is really this: human is potential. Human is dominion. Human is divine design with a lost direction. But I came to tell you, it is not too late. You are not an accident. You are not what you've done. You are not your mistakes. You are what you were meant to be. Your origin defines your worth, and your purpose defines your future. Return to your source. Rediscover your meaning. Realign with your purpose. You are human, and that is not a small thing. That is a sacred thing. If you misunderstand the nature of a thing, you will abuse it. And the most dangerous form of abuse is self-abuse, when you violate your own purpose simply because you were never told who you really are. One of the greatest lies humanity has ever believed is that we are merely physical creatures having a spiritual experience. But the truth, the unchanging, eternal truth, is that we are spiritual beings sent here to have a physical experience for a temporary assignment. We are not bodies with spirits. We are spirits wearing bodies. You are not flesh trying to be holy. You are spirit rediscovering your authority. Let that settle into your heart for a moment. Because until you embrace this truth, you will live your life by what you see in the mirror, what others say about you, or what you feel in your emotions. But the human identity is not rooted in sight, opinion, or sensation. It is rooted in essence. Essence is what you are before you became anything else. It is what you are without the layers of culture, the labels of history, or the scars of experience. It is what God breathed into the dust when he formed man, not what man made of himself after the fall. When God created humanity, he did not begin with the body. The body was formed, yes, but only as a house, a vessel. It was the spirit that made man alive. The moment of life was not when the clay stood up, but when the breath of God entered it. And from that breath came awareness, purpose, creativity, relationship, and dominion. That breath is not air. It is spirit. It is divine nature in human form. That is what makes you more than an animal. That is what separates you from all other creation. It is why nothing on earth satisfies you for long, because eternity lives in your core. This truth is why materialism cannot define you. Your value is not in your clothes, your money, your education, or your status. Because none of those things are you. They are simply the accessories of the house you live in. You don't dress a palace and forget the king inside. So why do we dress our bodies, decorate our lives, and starve our spirit? Why do we honor the vessel but ignore the occupant? Because we have been trained to live from the outside in instead of the inside out. And that is why our societies are full of activity but empty of identity. We are busy but we are broken. We are achieving but we are not becoming. We are alive but we are not living. The moment you realize you are spirit, your entire view of life changes. You stop chasing pleasure and start pursuing purpose. You stop depending on feelings and start living by faith. You stop measuring your worth by human standards and begin to understand the eternal measurement of your design. The spirit does not age, wrinkle, or decay. It is not limited by your environment or your past. It is not bound by race, gender, or background. The spirit carries the image of its creator, unfiltered, untouched, undiluted. This is why death is not the end. When the body fails, the spirit returns, because the spirit came first, and what comes first is what matters most. The tragedy of our generation is not death, but spiritual ignorance. We do not know who we are, so we live like what we're not. We are trying to fix behavior without healing belief. We are building better bodies while ignoring broken spirits. We spend our time, energy, and focus on improving the shell, and we are starving the soul. And then we wonder why anxiety increases, depression spreads, and emptiness grows, because you cannot feed a spirit with fleshly solutions. You were created to function from your spirit, because that is the seat of wisdom, vision, and truth. The spirit is where your assignment is stored. The body is how you carry it out. So when you ignore your spirit, you are walking through life blind. You can be successful and still be lost. You can be rich and still be empty. Because success without self-awareness is just another form of bondage. The prison is just more comfortable. This is why the restoration of humanity begins with the restoration of identity. And identity is only discovered when we reconnect to our source. You didn't create yourself, so you cannot define yourself. Only the one who made you knows who you are, and he said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." That image is not physical, it is spiritual. It is the breath within the dust. It is the eternal within the temporary. It is the divine within the human, and it is that image, when recognized, that sets you free. You are a spirit. You are not what happened to your body. You are not what society called you. You are not even what you think you are. You are what God designed you to be before you were in your mother's womb. You were known before you were seen. You were chosen before you were born. You are more than muscle and memory. You are meaning in motion. And until you live from your spirit, you will never truly live, because the human is not just what you see. The human is the breath behind the voice, the fire behind the eyes, the purpose behind the pain. That is who you are. Purpose is the original intent in the mind of the Creator before something is formed. Nothing on earth was created without a reason. The sun has a purpose. The seed has a purpose. Even the mosquito, though annoying, has a purpose. And if every created thing was made for a purpose, then how much more the human being who was formed in the very image and likeness of God? The tragedy of modern humanity is that we have become more impressed with function than we are with purpose. We admire talent, celebrate gifts, promote performance, and elevate productivity. But all of that means nothing if you don't know why you were made. Because purpose is not about what you can do. It's about what you were designed to do. And when you live outside of purpose, you are misusing your own life, even if the world claps for you. Every human being was born with a reason for existing. You are not a biological accident. You are not the product of human error or random circumstances. You are not a number in the population or a statistic in society. You are the manifestation of divine intent, sent from eternity, delivered through time and placed on earth with an assignment that only you can fulfill. You didn't begin when you were born. You began when God thought of you. Your existence is proof that your purpose is still valid. To understand what a human is, you must understand why a human was made. The nature of anything is determined by its purpose. A chair was made to support, a fish was made to swim, a bird was made to fly. If a bird tries to swim, it will drown. If a fish tries to fly, it will suffocate. The problem is not with the creature. It is with its misalignment to its purpose. Likewise, when a human lives contrary to their design, they don't cease to exist. They just begin to malfunction. And that's the root of the chaos we see today. Broken people in high positions, gifted people with no vision, intelligent minds building a world without moral foundation. Why? Because we are functioning without reference to the blueprint. We are driving without directions, building without blueprints, living without purpose. And when purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. When you don't know what a thing is for, you will misuse it. Whether it's a tool, a relationship, a body, or a soul. You were not created to imitate others. You were not designed to compete with the world. You were sent to fulfill a specific task that was etched into your spirit before your body was ever formed. That's why your nature is unique. That's why your personality, your passions, your gifts, and even your pain are wired a certain way. Your nature is not random. It is encoded with your assignment. Purpose explains the why behind the what. Why are you drawn to certain issues? Why do you feel deeply about specific injustices? Why does your heart break for some things while others ignore them? Why do certain activities make you come alive while others drain you? That's not coincidence. That's divine design. Purpose is speaking. The problem is, many of us never stop long enough to listen. If you want to understand the nature of the human, you must ask the Creator, not the creation. The world did not make you, so it cannot define you. Culture didn't form you, so it cannot explain you. Your job, your title, your career, your relationships, none of these things can determine your purpose. They are expressions of who you are, but they are not the essence. Your nature as a human is defined by the reason God made you. And until you return to the Creator, you will always be guessing, wondering, and settling. This is why identity must be rooted in purpose. Without purpose, you will either abuse yourself or allow others to misuse you. Without purpose, you will chase approval and forget your assignment. Without purpose, you will settle for surviving when you were born to dominate. Without purpose, you will let your past define you instead of allowing your future to call you forward. Purpose gives birth to discipline. When you know why you are here, you stop wasting time. You stop trying to be everything for everyone. You stop copying people who are walking in lanes that were never yours to run. Purpose makes you focus. Purpose makes you guard your energy, protect your vision, and walk with authority. It removes confusion and replaces it with clarity. And clarity is what most people are secretly begging for, but purpose is not discovered through ambition, it is revealed through revelation. You don't create your purpose. You uncover it, it is already in you. It was breathed into you, and when you connect with your source, he begins to show you what was always there. The ideas, the burdens, the gifts, the dreams, they begin to make sense. Your life becomes a message, and your presence becomes a solution. You were born with a divine assignment. You are not a mistake. Your background does not disqualify you. Your failures do not cancel you. The fact that you are still breathing is proof that purpose is still in motion. You were not sent to earth just to make money, get married, retire, and die. You were sent to accomplish a divine objective. and until that purpose is fulfilled, your nature as a human remains incomplete. This is why you must ask, not what do I want to be, but why was I sent? Because when purpose becomes your pursuit, your nature will begin to align, and the spirit inside of you will start to lead. There is a truth more powerful than motivation, deeper than education, and stronger than religion, and that truth is this: humans were not created to dominate one another, but to represent divine authority over the earth. You were not born just to exist. You were sent to rule. You were never designed for subjugation, nor for oppression. You were created for dominion, not over people, but over the environment, over creation, and most of all, over yourself. From the beginning, the original blueprint was not the creation of a religious species, but the extension of heaven's government into the earth through mankind. When God said, "Let them have dominion," he was transferring a portion of his authority to the human being, not to make humans gods, but to make them governors. We are not sovereign in ourselves, but we were designed to function under the sovereignty of our source. That is not religion, that is rulership. You were made to represent something greater than yourself. That is why you are restless in shallow living. That is why mere survival does not satisfy you. That is why chasing pleasure never fills the void. Because you were never made to serve creation. You were made to steward it. You are not a slave to the systems of this world. You were born to infiltrate them with light, truth, and order. You are not an accident of biology. You are an ambassador of heaven. An ambassador does not carry his own opinion. He carries the message of the kingdom he represents. He does not speak what he feels. He declares the policy of his government. That is the role of humanity on earth, to act as agents of God's kingdom, manifesting his nature, his will, and his order in a world that has drifted from its creator. When the human walks in alignment with their design, the world around them begins to change, not because of their strength, but because of their authority. The problem is, most people don't know what they carry. We think authority comes from position, from fame, from power, from wealth. But true authority is not about being in control. It is about being under control. It is about being submitted to the one who sent you. A police officer has no power in himself, but when he wears the badge, he represents the entire legal system behind him. In the same way, your authority is not in your personality. It is in your alignment. You cannot walk in divine authority if you are disconnected from divine presence. A branch cannot bear fruit unless it is connected to the vine. When man disconnected from God, he did not lose his existence. He lost his dominion. He lost the awareness of his assignment. That is why fear entered. That is why confusion reigned. That is why humans began to rule each other instead of the world around them. Where purpose is lost, power is abused. God never gave man authority to rule another man. He said, "Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and everything that moves upon the earth." That includes systems, ideas, inventions, and creations, but it does not include people. The moment we begin to dominate each other, we step outside of original design and fall into perversion. Control was never the plank. Oh, rulership with the Creator was. The dominion of humanity is not about pride, it's about position. It's about being rightly placed in the structure of creation, man under God, earth under man. But when man tries to live without God, he reverses the order. Now we see man under the earth, ruled by appetites, controlled by circumstances, and bound by material things. We see people surrendering to systems that they were meant to reform, enslaved by pleasures they were supposed to manage, and destroyed by ideologies they were sent to confront. You were not born to be ruled by food, sex, fame, money, or fear. You were born to rule from a posture of righteousness, wisdom, and clarity. You were created to govern your gifts, your time, your mind, and your potential. That is what it means to be made in the image of God. It means you were built with the capacity to reflect heaven on earth. You were created to bring order where there is chaos, light where there is darkness, and peace where there is conflict. And yet, how can someone rule the earth if they cannot rule their own life? Authority begins within. It starts in your thoughts, in your habits, in your decisions. The human who learns to govern himself becomes qualified to govern his environment, but the man who cannot say no to himself is already disqualified from leadership. Dominion is not about titles, it is about discipline. The world is not waiting for more entertainment, more ambition, or more empty speeches. It is groaning for the manifestation of those who know who they are. It is longing for sons and daughters who walk in their original authority. Not borrowed, not imitated, not forced, but authority that flows from knowing their assignment, knowing their source, and knowing their place in the divine order. You were not placed here to blend in, to shrink back, or to wander. You were placed here to represent. You are a sent one, an authorized one, an anointed one, not because of religion, but because of relationship. Your life is not random, it is strategic. You are heaven's answer to an earthly problem, and until you recognize that you carry authority, you will continue to live like a victim in a world you were born to lead. The value of a thing is determined by the intent of its maker and the image it reflects. We live in a world obsessed with labels. What brand you're wearing, what your job title is, how many followers you have, how attractive your body appears. But none of these things define the worth of a human being, because your true value has nothing to do with the vessel you occupy. It has everything to do with the image you carry. The human was created in the image and likeness of God. That is not poetry, it is blueprint, it is not symbolism, it is design. The word image in its purest form means essence, nature, character, representation. When God made man, he did not draw from the soil. He formed the body from the dust, yes, but he placed his own essence inside. He said, "Let us make man in our image." That is not about appearance. That is about identity. That is about embedding the DNA of divinity into a vessel of clay. And this is where most of us have been deceived. We think value is earned, gained, improved, or polished. But value is neither determined by performance nor increased by perfection. Value is established at the point of creation. Your value is not found in your performance, but in your presence. You are valuable because of who made you and whose image you carry, not because of what you've done. Think of currency. A torn bill, a wrinkled bill, even a dirty bill, still holds its full value. Why? Because its worth is backed by a higher authority. Likewise, you may be bruised, broken, stained by experience, damaged by decisions, but your value has not changed. Your failures do not disqualify you from your identity. Your past does not cancel your worth, because the one who formed you never revoked the image he placed inside you. And herein lies the beauty and tragedy of humanity. You were made to reflect glory, but you can choose to hide it. You were designed for greatness, but you can choose to settle for mediocrity. You were made to walk in confidence, but you can live in shame, because although the image is unchangeable, your awareness of it is not. A mirror that is covered cannot reflect light, and when a human loses sight of the image they carry, they become vulnerable to every counterfeit identity this world offers. That is why people chase affirmation. That is why some compromise their morals, sell their souls, or live for applause, because they are searching for value in the vessel. But no matter how beautiful the body, it is still dust, and no matter how advanced the mind, it is still finite. If you do not recognize the image within, you will live as a prisoner of what is without. This is why comparison is so dangerous. It distracts you from your image. It causes you to envy the vessel of another while ignoring the treasure within yourself. You were never meant to look at someone else and feel less than. You were not designed to imitate, but to reflect, and the only one you were created to reflect is the one who made you. As long as your mirror points to others, it cannot show you who you really are. Even religion has confused us. We've been taught to look holy, speak holy, act holy, without ever being reminded of who we already are. Holiness is not a costume. It's not behavior you perform, it's nature you reflect. It flows from the image you carry. It is not the result of trying harder. It is the fruit of remembering your source. And when a person knows who they are, righteousness becomes natural. Integrity becomes instinct. Dignity becomes automatic. The enemy of your soul does not fear your muscles, your intelligence, or even your success. What he fears is your awareness. He fears the moment you wake up and say, "Wait, I'm made in God's image." Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you remember it, you can no longer live like you forgot. And a human who remembers the image he bears is a human who cannot be manipulated. You do not need to become anything to be valuable. You only need to uncover what was already there. That is the beauty of rediscovery. It's not about reaching forward. It's about returning to the design, the blueprint, the source. When you see a damaged painting by a famous artist, the damage does not change the value, because the signature is still there. The moment the signature is recognized, the value is restored. Your Creator left his signature in your soul. It is embedded in your spirit. It is inscribed in your nature. And no amount of pain, sin, trauma, or failure can erase it. You are not just a body walking the earth. You are a mirror, created to reflect the glory of the invisible in the realm of the visible. You are evidence of the divine. You are proof of God's imagination. That's what makes you human. And until you see yourself through the lens of your image bearer, you will always see yourself through the cracked lens of the world. The human experience is deeper than flesh, broader than biology, and far more eternal than the span of life between birth and death. You are not your name, your skin, your nationality, or even your profession. Those are temporary identifiers for a far more permanent reality. You are spirit, you are eternal, you are unseen essence wrapped in visible form. You are a citizen of eternity who has entered time to fulfill a specific assignment. To misunderstand the nature of humanity is to misunderstand life itself. The majority of people live as if the body is who they are, when in truth it is only the house they are borrowing. The body is not you. It is your earth license. It gives you legal authority to function in the physical realm. Without it, your spirit cannot remain here. But when your assignment is over, the body will return to dust, and the real you, the spirit, will return to the one who sent you. This is why the world is full of confusion. People are trying to satisfy spirit cravings with physical solutions. They are attempting to solve spiritual hunger with material gain. But the body was not designed to fulfill the purpose of your existence. It was created to carry the one who will. Your spirit, your breath, your life force, the very breath that entered Adam was not mere oxygen. It was the nature of God himself, and that spirit came with intention. It was not released randomly. You were not dropped into earth accidentally. Your time, your generation, your family, your geography, none of it is coincidence. You were deployed from eternity for a mission in time. That's why you don't fully feel at home here. That's why things around you feel out of order, why your soul aches when you see injustice, why your heart burns when truth is violated, because the real you came from a place where only righteousness rules. Your spirit carries memory not of events but of essence. That's why you're drawn to purpose, why you seek meaning, why success alone never satisfies you, because there's something in you that remembers what the world has forgotten. Your assignment on earth is not to become wealthy, popular, or impressive. It is to complete the mission heaven gave you before you were formed in your mother's womb. You are not a wanderer, you are an ambassador. Ambassadors do not live for the land they're sent to. They live for the land that sent them. They carry its laws, its values, its standards, and its authority. Likewise, your spirit came from a government, from a kingdom, from a source. That means your life is not about self-expression. It's about divine representation. You are not here to invent your purpose. You are here to discover and fulfill it. And that purpose is spiritual before it is physical. You were spirit before you had a face, before you had a voice, before you ever had a name. The body came later. That's why when a person dies, people say they're gone, even while the body is still there. Because even the world knows deep within that the body is not the person, it is the package. If you misunderstand this, you'll spend your life decorating the house while neglecting the resident. You'll feed the body while starving the spirit. You'll train your mind but forget your eternal nature. You'll chase shadows while ignoring substance. You'll accumulate things you can't take with you and ignore the assignment you'll be judged by. Your time on earth is temporary, but it is not insignificant. You were not sent to merely pass time. You were sent to impact time with eternity. Every gift you have, every idea in your heart, every burden in your spirit. These are clues to your assignment. They are not random. They are indicators. They are part of the mission. Your spiritual nature gives you access to wisdom that transcends culture, media, and education. But this also means you cannot live like those who do not know. You cannot adopt the standards of a world that doesn't remember its own origin. You cannot allow temporal systems to define your eternal self. Your values must come from heaven. Your decisions must be influenced by eternity. Your relationships, your career, your priorities must all bow to the weight of your assignment. Because when you leave this realm, only one question will remain. Did you finish what you were sent to do? This is not about religion. It is not about rituals, denominations, or traditions. This is about divine strategy. You were sent here for a reason, and your time is proof of that. Every second you breathe is evidence that you still have work to do. And until your spirit returns to the one who gave it, your duty is not to chase comfort, but to fulfill purpose. You are not a human being trying to have a spiritual experience. You are a spirit having a temporary human experience. And once you understand this, everything changes. Your choices gain weight. Your moments gain meaning. Your pain becomes process. Your success becomes stewardship. And your life becomes a message. You came from eternity, and to eternity you will return. But what you do in time will echo forever. Nothing destroys a life more quietly and completely than the absence of purpose. When purpose is absent, abuse is inevitable. Confusion becomes normal. Life becomes an experiment rather than an assignment. And the tragedy is that most people do not die because they are sick. They die because they are unfulfilled. They die not because time ran out, but because purpose was never known. Purpose is the original intent in the mind of the Creator that motivated him to make you. It is the reason behind your birth, the meaning behind your existence, and the destination buried in your design. The restoration of the human soul, therefore, does not begin with behavior modification or self-improvement. It begins with recovering that purpose. Until you discover why you were sent here, life will remain an endless cycle of motion without meaning. The restoration of purpose is not about getting a career, a title, or an applause. It is about rediscovering alignment with the vision of the one who made you. You were not born randomly, and you do not exist accidentally. You are a solution wrapped in skin, a strategy born into time, a thought from eternity that became flesh and blood. When you live without this understanding, you settle for survival. But when purpose is restored, clarity returns. Direction becomes possible. Life moves from reaction to intention. It is not your environment that defines you. It is your assignment. You may have grown up in dysfunction, faced poverty, abuse, rejection, or trauma. But those are events, not identity. The story of your past does not rewrite the purpose of your design. A product is never defined by how it was misused. It is defined by the intent of its manufacturer. That means no matter what you've been through, purpose still remains. The tragedy is that people have confused potential with purpose. Potential is what you can do. Purpose is what you were born to do. You can have gifts and still be lost. You can be skilled and still be wandering. You can be busy and still be off course. Purpose is not found in doing many things. It's found in doing the right thing, the thing you were uniquely designed to do, and when you find it, everything else aligns. Peace returns, vision sharpens, discipline becomes natural, because purpose creates focus. But purpose is not something you invent. It's something you uncover. It is not made by you. It is found in the mind of your source. That's why restoration must begin with connection. Until the creation reconnects with the Creator, purpose cannot be fully restored. You cannot ask the product to define itself. Only the manufacturer knows why it exists. Likewise, only your maker knows the full truth of your design. You were made for impact, for influence, for transformation, not for popularity. You were formed to fill a specific need in a specific time on earth. That means your gifts, your passions, your pain, and even your story are not random. They are part of the blueprint. But if you don't see them through the lens of purpose, you will misinterpret them. You will resent your pain instead of learning from it. You will waste your gifts on things that don't matter. You will pursue pleasure and never experience peace. Restoration of purpose means you stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "Why was I sent?" It means you stop comparing your path with others and start focusing on your own lane. It means you stop measuring your life by achievements and begin aligning it with assignment. Purpose removes the need for applause because assignment doesn't require approval. It only requires obedience. Once purpose is restored, your life is no longer random. It becomes prophetic. Your words carry weight. Your decisions carry legacy. Your time becomes sacred. Your relationships become intentional. You are no longer easily distracted because you are driven by destiny. You don't engage every argument, attend every event, or chase every opportunity, because your purpose sets your priorities. Even the restoration of communities, nations, and families begins with restored individuals who know why they were born. A human without purpose is a danger to themselves and to others. But a human who has discovered their purpose is unstoppable. They are not moved by pressure. They are not intimidated by systems. They do not live for trends. They live for truth. They are dangerous to darkness because their life is not for sale. The power of restoration is that it doesn't just heal what was broken. It revives what was lost. It reactivates what has been dormant. It calls the sleeping potential back to life. When a person remembers their purpose, they rise, they stand, they become immune to deception, resilient in hardship, and faithful in obscurity. They are no longer trying to become something. They simply walk in what they already are. The restoration of the human being is not about building a better version of yourself. It's about returning to the original version of you that was in the mind of God before you were ever conceived. And that original version was whole, full of vision, anchored in identity, and charged with purpose. You are not here to merely exist. You are here to complete something, and until that purpose is restored, nothing else will truly satisfy. So now we return to the question, how is human? Human is not a mistake. Human is not an evolved accident. Human is not a flesh-covered animal roaming in confusion. Human is not simply mind, muscle, or matter. Human is spirit, human is design, human is purpose wrapped in dust. Human is God's idea, executed with intention and sent into time on assignment. You are not a random breath inhaled into flesh. You are a chosen echo from eternity. You are not just living. You were sent. You were placed. You were released into the earth by divine strategy to reflect what is unseen in the realm of the seen. You are not a body looking for meaning. You are meaning housed in a body. You are more than culture told you. You are greater than failure convinced you. And you are deeper than religion ever explained to you. When you forget who you are, you become vulnerable to lies. But when you remember who you are, you become unstoppable. You are an image bearer, a mirror of the invisible. You are both clay and glory, both dust and destiny. And until you reconnect with your source, you will never operate in the full power of your design. Your restoration does not begin with improvement. It begins with remembrance. The question is not whether you are valuable. The question is, will you wake up and walk like it? You don't need to compete. You don't need to perform. You don't need to copy anyone else. All you need to do is become who you already were. The treasure has always been in you. The assignment has always been calling you. And the Spirit of God has always been waiting for you to say yes. This is your hour to return, not just to your Creator, but to yourself, to who you truly are, to who heaven designed before earth ever knew your name. This is the moment to shake off labels, limitations, lies, and live the way you were born to live. As a human, with purpose, with image, with power, and with destiny, you are not here to pass through time. You are here to leave a mark that time cannot erase. So arise, human. The earth is waiting for you to remember who you are.